You cannot hide your profits in tax havens like the Cayman Islands and Bermuda and avoid paying your fair share of taxes when we have enormous unmet needs at home. And what we are saying is loud and clear, is that the greed of the billionaire class, these people who want it all, has got to end. They cannot have the benefits of being in America without accepting their fair share of responsibilities. But when we talk about the economy, it is not only the grotesque level of income and wealth inequality and the nature of a rigged economy, where the rich get richer and everybody else gets poorer. What we are also talking about is the tragedy that for the last 40 years, not 10 years, not 20 years, the last 40 years, the great middle class of this country, once the envy of the entire world, has been disappearing. Despite exploding technology and increased worker productivity, median family income today is almost $5,000 less than it was in 1999. All of you know that in New Hampshire, in Vermont, all over this country, we are seeing people working incredibly long hours, trying to make enough money to keep their families going. That is not what the American economy should be about. We need an economy that works for the middle class of this country and not just for a handful of billionaires. And when we talk about the economy, we're talking about income and wealth inequality, we're talking about the collapse of the American middle class, but what we are also talking about is unacceptably high unemployment. Now, every month, the Department of Labor issues a report on unemployment. And what they say is nationally, the official unemployment rate is 5.4%. But the government also issues another statistic which talks about real unemployment as opposed to official unemployment. And here's the difference. Real unemployment includes those people who have given up looking for work in high unemployment areas, and more significantly, the millions of people who are working part-time when they want to work full-time. And right now, many of the new jobs that are being created, in fact, are part-time jobs. If you add all of that together, the government statistic for real unemployment is 10.8%. Now, on top of that, there is another issue out there that we do not talk about virtually at all. And one of the fun things that I'm having running for president is I'm bringing up issues, and I am going to talk about issues that nobody talks about but need to be talked about. And let me give you one example of that issue. We have today a tragedy, a human tragedy in the high rate of youth unemployment, something which is not talked about at all. Youth unemployment. A couple of weeks ago, the Economic Policy Institute, one of the important think tanks in Washington, came up with a report on youth unemployment, including people who have given up looking for work and people who are working part-time when they want to work full-time. And this is what they said about young people aged 17 to 20, kids who have either dropped out of high school or have graduated high school. This is an issue we don't talk about. For those kids who are whites, real unemployment is 33%. For those who are Hispanic, real unemployment is 36%. For those who are African American, real unemployment is 51%. How do we not talk about that issue? And if anybody in this room thinks that those outrageously high unemployment rates for our young people are not related to the fact that we have more people in jail than any other country on earth, you would be wrong. So it seems to me to make a lot more sense to invest in jobs and education than incarceration and jail. We have more people in jail in the United States of America than in any other country on earth. China, just think about this, is a communist authoritarian country 4 times as large as we are. We have more people in jail than they do. So maybe, just maybe, it is time to rethink the way we deal with our young people, the way we deal with minorities, our law enforcement practices, and maybe it's time that we try to create decent lives for these kids rather than just locking them up. There's another issue that we have to put on the table, and that is that millions of Americans are working at totally inadequate wages. Today, the federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. In my view, that is a starvation wage. It has got to be raised to a living wage, $15 an hour in the next few years. I don't think it is a radical idea to say that in America, if somebody works 40 hours a week, that person should not be living in poverty. But that is the case all over America. Let me briefly tell you a story. I was in Des Moines, Iowa, a couple of weeks ago, and I was at a farmer's market. I talked to somebody who was working with a church group there. And what they do is at the end of the farmer's market, they collect the food that has not been sold and they take it to an emergency food shelf. And I just asked the guy, I said, out of curiosity, what's your guess as to how many of the people who go to the emergency food shelf are actually working? And he said, well, we think it's about 90%. And all over the country, I know it's true in Vermont as well, people are going to emergency food shelves not because they're unemployed, but because the wages that they are earning are inadequate for them to feed their families. So what we need to do is to make sure the minimum wage goes up. But when we talk about wages, by the way, there is another issue that we have to deal with. And that is, it is unacceptable, it is indefensible that women in America make 78 cents on the dollar compared to men doing the same work. Clearly what this country must stand for is equal pay for equal work. We need pay equity for women working. Now, some of you may have heard, and I know here in New Hampshire you have the joy of hearing from every Republican candidate in the world. And you may have heard their lectures on family values. They're great believers in the family and family values. Now, as you know, what they mean by family values is that a woman should not have the right to control her own body and make important decisions for herself. Their view on family values is that a woman is not intelligent enough to be able to purchase the contraceptives she may want. That's their view. Their view on family matters, family values, is that two people who love each other, who happen to be of the same sex, should be discriminated against and not be allowed to marry. I reject those family values. So let me tell you about another set of family values that I strongly support, because I believe in family. I am very lucky. I've been married 27 years. I've got 4 kids. I've got 7 grandchildren. And I believe that we've got to do everything that we can to strengthen families in America. But this is my idea of family values. And that is, the United States must end the international embarrassment of being the only major country on earth, the only one, which does not guarantee working people paid medical and family leave, sick time, and paid vacation time. How's that for a family value? Now here's the family value. Today in America, there are women who are giving birth, which may be the most important and profound moment of their lives, of the father's life, of the baby's life, by definition. It's a profound statement. And yet, if that woman is lower income or working class, there is an absolute possibility and likelihood that she will be forced a week after she gives birth to run back to her job because she does not have the income to stay home and bond with her baby. Now, when you talk about family values, what is more significant than the ability of mom and dad to get to know their newborn baby, to learn about their newborn baby? That is the family value. And that is why, if elected President of the United States, I will fight to have the United States join the rest of the industrialized world and provide for 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave. That is a family value. Furthermore, I travel around a lot, and I go to a lot of restaurants. And you know what? I do not want people preparing food who are sick. We are the only major country on earth that does not provide for paid sick leave, and that has got to end as well.